These are assembly instructions for my octagonal boxes that are custom made to fit the 12 and 15 ounce Cricut mugs. The 12-ounce size is in one file and has 3 options for the lid, and the 15-ounce version is in a separate file. It also has 3 different options for the lids. I'm going to start with the bottom part of my box. So I have 2 pieces that look very similar. One of them has a cutout for the handle. I'm folding down on all the score lines that run along the panel, and then I'm folding down on the small tabs at the bottom. And I'm doing that for both pieces. On the panel that doesn't have the cutout for the handle, I'm putting glue along the side tab from the score line to the edge. And then I'm taking the cut edge of my second panel and I'm just gluing it right to the score line on my tab. And I want the top and the bottom score lines to be even. So next I have my decorative panels that I'm going to glue on to the sides of the bottom of my box. And I've cut out one that has the opening for the handle. So I'm just putting glue on the underside of my panels and I'm gluing them down, trying to keep an even border all the way around. And I'm going to do that for all 8 panels. So now that I've glued on my panels, I'm going to flip my piece over. I'm folding the left side over and I'm putting glue all over that side tab. And then I'm bringing the right side over to meet it, and I want the cut edge of the panel on my left side to be right up against the score line of my tab. My piece should lay flat and it should be even at the top, and the score lines at the bottom should be even as well. In the file I have 4 octagon pieces. So for the 2 that are cut out of the pattern cardstock, one of them is slightly larger than the other. I'm putting the larger one aside for now. It's for the lid of my box. And then I have these 2 in the same navy blue solid 80-pound cardstock, and they're going to go at the bottom of my box. I'm going to take my box piece and I'm putting glue on all 8 of these tabs. So from the score line to the edge, I'm just covering those tabs in glue. And then I'm pushing all 8 of them to the interior of my shape. And I'm laying my shape down on my craft mat. I'm positioning my box so that all of my tabs are pointing towards the interior. And then I'm taking one of my solid octagons, I'm dropping it into my shape, and I want the corners of my octagon to be right along the score lines in the walls of my box. So I'm just dropping it in. So the flat sides of my octagon follow along the flat edges of my walls. And then I'm going in with my bone folder and I'm just spreading that glue. And if you don't have a bone folder, you can use a ruler or something with a nice clean straight edge. So now I'm looking at the bottom of my box, taking the second solid octagon, I'm covering the underside of it in glue, and then I'm placing it on the bottom, making sure to match up the edges and the corners, just like so. And then I'm putting that down on my mat and going in with my bone folder and just spreading that glue. So now I have it upside down again, and I have my decorative piece for the bottom. I'm putting glue on the underside of my octagon cut out of pattern cardstock, and then just gluing it down and trying to maintain an even border on all 8 sides. And then I'm flipping my piece over again and just spreading that glue. So there are 3 options for the lid. I have a lid that has these little tiny Velcro closures with a Velcro closure that's also around the handle. You just remove the lid like so, and then the cup. And then I have a simpler version. It has a much shallower lid, and I just remove that extra Velcro piece. I put my cup inside, put the lid back on, and then secure the Velcro piece in place. And then for my third option, it's going to have the same little Velcro closures, but I've made them a little bit larger. I thought this was a little bit more masculine. So this is the main piece for the lid. I'm just folding down on the 8 score lines for that octagon that's in the center of my shape. So for each side, there are tabs on the side. I'm just folding down on those tabs. And these 2 are a little bit smaller. And then at the end of the tabs, there's another score line, just folding down on it as well. For this one that has that extra flap, I'm folding down on the flap, and then I'm folding down on the little tab at the end. So now that I've folded down on all the score lines, it's easier to see where all my decorative panels need to go. So I've got 1 octagon for the center. Now that was the larger one that we put aside earlier. Then I have rectangles that go on 7 of my sides, Oh, I forgot to fold down on this score line. I have a panel for it, and then I have a decorative panel for here and a tiny little decorative panel for the tab. I'm going to glue all of these panels into place, trying to keep an even border all the way around. Now that I've decorated my piece, I'm going to start with the tab that's just to the left of my shorter tab. I'm just putting glue on this tab, and then I'm folding down the adjacent side so that the cut edge of it is right along the score line of the tab where I've just put glue. Then I'm rotating my piece to the left, putting glue on the tab that's on the left of it, and just gluing that in place. And I'm just going to work my way around my shape until I've reached that last side. So next, I'm at that last panel that is much shorter than the others. I'm putting glue on both tabs. There's one that's already attached to my lid, and then there's the other one that's on the other side of the panel. And I'm just gluing those tabs in place, and that will close my lid. And then I have all these flaps. I'm putting glue on these flaps and then folding them inwards, the interior of my lid piece. And for the short one, I have a little tiny flap. I'm putting glue all over it, and I'm folding it towards the interior of my box as well. So next, I'm working on the little closures that are going to be on either side of my lid piece to keep that lid on. So I have two sets of pieces. I have the base layer, and I'm just folding down on the score line for it. And then I'm taking the small rectangle with the rounded corners, and I'm just gluing it to match up the edges and those rounded corners. Then I have a curved piece for the bottom. I'm just gluing that on top. And then I have a smaller curved piece, and this is just ornamental. I'm just gluing it on top, trying to center it as best I can on that bottom portion. And I'm doing the exact same thing with the second closure. So now that I've assembled them, I could use glue here, but I think I'm going to use some red line tape instead. So I'm going to flip my pieces over. I'm going to put red line tape from the score line to the top of my piece. I'm doing that for both of them. So this is the panel where the handle gets inserted, and then there's a panel in between, and then there's the side panel. I'm removing the liner from my red line tape. I'm positioning the score line from my closure right along the edge of that panel, and I'm just gluing that down like so. So next I have these Velcro dots, and they are 3/8 of an inch, and they are clear. I'm going to need 3 sets of them for this project. I'm taking one of my Velcro dots, and I'm gluing the adhesive part so it's more or less centered around the bottom part of that closure. And then I'm taking its other half and just placing it on top. So then I have my second closure, and I'm putting it on the panel that's directly across from the one that I've just installed. I'm positioning it so that it's more or less centered on that panel, and I'm positioning my Velcro on that piece as well. And so then I have this little tab that's at the back. I'm adhering the sticky side to the underside of that little tab. I'm matching up the other half of my Velcro dot to it. So next I'm going to take my box. I've put my cup in it just to make it a little bit easier. Putting my lid on to the cup like so. I want to make sure that my lid is exactly where I want it to be. I've got that little closure going through my handle. I'm removing the liner on my Velcro dot, and then just placing my Velcro dot exactly where it needs to be. I'm carefully separating the two halves of my Velcro, and then adding a little bit of pressure just to make sure that they stay put. I'm going to close it again, make sure everything is nicely in place, and then I'm going to do the same for the Velcro dots that are on either side of my handle. I'm just removing the liner from the Velcro dot, adhering it in place, and then carefully opening the Velcro and applying pressure just to make sure that those Velcro dots stay put. Flip my piece over and do that on the other side. And so there's my little box that contains my mug. And so I have the version with the smaller clasps, and then I have the version that has the shallow lid and the piece that keeps that handle in place. This is the lid piece that has the triangular shapes around it. Fold it down on all the score lines for it. I fold it on the score line just below each triangle. I'm folding it towards me, so they're valley folds. And then I'm putting glue on the tabs that are between those rectangular shapes, bringing the cut edge of one adjacent side to the score line of the tab that I've just put glue on, and I'm just gluing that down. And I'm continuing around the perimeter of my lid piece, doing the exact same thing for all 8 sides. So once that's all glued together, I'm flipping it over. I'm looking at the underside of my lid, putting glue all over one of those rectangular shapes and all over the triangle. It doesn't matter which one. And then I'm folding that piece in. That scored rectangle is glued over the lip of my lid, and then the triangle is glued down to the center like so. So I'm just working my way around my shape, doing the exact same thing for all 8 sides, gluing them down into the interior of my lid piece. And this piece fits under the handle to keep my box in place. So I'm just gluing down the decorative parts of it. I've got the rectangle for the center, and then I have these tiny slivers to decorate the tabs on either side. I have more of these Velcro dots, the 3/8 of an inch and clear, and I'm going to need 4 sets of them. I'm going to flip my piece over, and on the underside, I'm gluing the sticky side of my Velcro dots. I'm gluing down 4 of them, 2 on one side, 2 on the other, gluing them just past that score line at the top and at the bottom, and I'm doing that on the other side as well. I'm matching up the other half of each one of those 4 Velcro dots to its other half, and then I'm placing my mug into my box. I am going to put the lid on top, and then I'm slipping this piece between the box and my handle. I've removed the liner off 2 of my Velcro dots. I'm just placing my piece so that the score line is more or less continuous on both the box and on the piece. Then I'm removing the liner from the Velcro on the other side and gluing it right to the side of my box. So there are 2 files, one for the 12-ounce mug and one for the larger 15-ounce mug. And there are 3 options for the lids. So this one has the Velcro for the handle, and then it has the Velcro for the little clasps. And then for both sizes, there's also the option that has the shallower lid and the piece that holds your cup in place.